Hello, everybody. Hello, whether you're watching now or later. How are you? Put in the chat how you're doing while I adjust some settings for one moment. Okay, welcome to another class. Thank you for being here. Today we are talking about spirit guides, the higher self, and connection to that light within you. A lot of people don't even have a relationship with their essence, with their soul on this planet, and that is an issue because you're here to embody that light that you truly are. And it is such a gift for you to live here in that expression. It's such a gift here for you to use this life that you have for your highest evolution. And that's why I feel like it's really important to talk about this. So let's take a moment to drop in as we usually do. And I'm going to join you in just settling the nervous system and coming into a state of coherence so that you can receive the highest light from this teaching. Okay, so if you want to join me in closing your eyes in your own time, coming into your center. And allowing yourself to breathe, allowing yourself to move the body in whatever way feels awakening or comfortable or needed. And whenever you feel comfortable and ready, opening the eyes and arriving fully in your own time. Okay, everybody. Again, thank you for being here, for watching. If you haven't already, please do subscribe and like this video. And let's get into this. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is what is spirit, or what is higher self? What is spirit guides? Because knowing that explains why we should care about this. So, and I'm going to be looking down at my notes as well, by the way, everybody, my handy notebook. Your higher self is the divine expression of light that is at the core of who and what you are in this lifetime, of what you're experiencing. It is the radiance of the God force, which is that one light that we all come from, the one life essence that we all come from. It is your unique soul spark, your unique piece of that. That is what your spirit, your soul, your higher self, God in you is. And he or she is so important because you are so important. You were divinely orchestrated through many lifetimes other than this one, but you were chosen by the God force to be animated, to be awakened, to be that spark of life living in this life. And when we can truly grasp that, we can actually feel like I am a miracle. I'm a miracle of experience, of matter. You are divine. So remembering that you are a soul helps you to remember and stay connected to the God force and remember that you are divine. You're a divine being. And when we really hold that and embody that and live that, it changes the way that we live. So your higher self is your soul essence or life force. And it's almost like within the spark of life force that you were carefully like orchestrated like a beautiful painting of certain frequencies and all these things that make up the unique soul essence that you are. We're all the same in that we're part of that one soul essence, one God essence, but we're uniquely painted from the paint of that into a beautiful soul essence that you know as you. And your soul essence has lived thousands, many, many lifetimes, and it ranges in its expression in that it lives through many dimensions all at the same time. And this is just really, really cool stuff. Hey, so that is what your higher self, your spirit, etc. is. It's that soul essence. And when we connect to that part of ourselves, what we're really doing is we still have to sort of experience it through the lens of our humanity, right? Like if I tune into my higher self, and I start to tap into that or try to communicate with it, I'm going to feel it or experience it through my human feeling and sensing. So I'm going to feel the frequencies, the emotions. Humans experience frequency as emotion. So if you drop into your higher self and you say, well, it's the part of me that feels like peace, it's the part of you that feels like joy or God force, emptiness, spaciousness, um, that is your soul essence. And you might also experience it as like getting words or impressions and things like this about what your unique soul essence is like. Well, I close my eyes and I connect to that and I see a beautiful flower, or every time I do, I see a violet flower. These are things that your being is trying to translate what is pure energy. And that is our experience of it in a very direct, intuitive way. Um, and your life force, or that larger God essence, I'm just going to ask spirit. So, like, your higher self, your unique soul essence is like this. Spirit's giving me this language of like, what your pure life force energy, that raw material of God, pings off. And what that means is they're talking about like an electromagnetic signal. They're talking about how if there's this wave of God force energy coming through you, your soul essence then allows it to express in that unique painted way that it is. So in a way, for our learning, we can think about higher self or soul essence as slightly different or separate, just in the context of learning, than our like Kundalini energy or raw God force energy. Only in the context of learning, because they are one and the same. But it's helpful to understand that as you develop into the path of alchemy and you understand, well, I'm communicating with my higher self versus I'm like having a Kundalini awakening and receiving a charge of energy. We want to just have that separation for our learning. But they are, as Spirit was saying, like they kind of, and sometimes metaphysical electromagnetic concepts are difficult to describe, but it's kind of like, as I said, your soul essence is a unique painting that the charge of the life force has come through to express itself as, which is really, really cool. I'm just going to grab my tea or water. So just one moment, guys. Oh, I really, really want my tea right now. It is so warm. I had the aircon on and it got like got like chilly in here. So that's off now. Okay. So if we understand this about higher self, only now can we talk about what even are spirit guides. Your spirit guides, these are, you could see them as aspects of your higher consciousness or your higher self. They are you in a extra dimensional, higher dimensional form. They are the pieces of your soul essence that you are learning from and through, and also over time being guided to integrate through this throughout your life or multiple lifetimes. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But they are aspects of your consciousness, and you may have heard the term like an oversoul. They are kind of aspects of your soul essence, oversoul as well. And this is where it gets really interesting with spirit guides, and then because we can also start to have a conversation. Okay, like what are ascended masters? What are all these higher beings? You have to remember that in the purest sense, we are all, let's say, one soul. We are all that God force, light. And so I could look at an ascended master who is quite big in that it is containing a lot of the God force essence, like Mother Mary, for example. And I could say Mother Mary's an aspect of my consciousness. Mother Mary is a expression of my oversoul. But that's not special and unique to me because we are one collective. So on the highest level, there is, like, I always imagine it, guys, like a big blob of light, just for our understanding here. There is the God force or soul. And then as it comes down dimensionally, it becomes more individuated and individual. But up here, let's say, for just for the sake of our understanding, I'm not saying that this is absolutely technically the correct format of things, but what I'm about to say. But let's say there's the God force, and then there's an ascended master like Jesus or Yahweh. Then he is basically the oversoul of, like, let's say a group of people, like a huge number of humanity, I mean. And then that being with that one is then an oversoul of that one, and so on and so on. And it gets more individuated. And so you want to see, like, your spirit guides are like your inner circle. They're the closest individuation to that which you are as an individuation. And then expanding outward, you have more archetypal beings and ascended mentor beings. Like, a spirit animal is an archetypal being that's in the field for everybody to access. But you might connect more, have one closer in your field because that's more resonant with the soul essence that you are. And you might then have, like, okay, my higher self, and then your closest or primary spirit guides. And these also will seem and are like very sort of individuated beings. And then on sort of like the outer circle, you might have a few ascended mentors slash masters. I call them mentors. That again, your soul particularly resonates with their teachings. So they're on your, like, just outer circle. And then they have an oversoul, and then they have an oversoul, and it just sort of keeps going because we are one collective. It's really cool. I love it. I hope that's making sense. There is more sort of technicality to it, but that's the best way to describe it for our learning and ability to navigate this in our human mind right now. So, okay. Yeah, so you could see, like I wrote here, you could see like the ascended mentors as like the collective spirit guides of everybody, you know? And yeah, that sort of process of individuation, you could call it a process of individuation or duplication. Not that everything's exactly the same. Everything that's created is unique, but it just gets more and more. My cat is kind of climbing on me, but being awkward about it. Excuse me, mister. Move. He doesn't know what he wants to do. Do you have a pet cat that tries to crawl all over you and then can't make a decision? Yeah. So I hope that is making sense. Your higher self is the spark of the God force that you uniquely are. Your spirit guides are aspects of that higher self that are most resonant to you, that they are like pieces of the pie of that essence. And then you start to have more collective guides around you that will be a match to your unique soul frequency, which will be like the themes that your soul is currently working on in this lifetime. Which mentor is most going to be most helpful. If you have a lot of lessons around like compassion and forgiveness, you might have the mentor known as Kuan Yin. If there's a lot of mother learnings that you're having about being a mother, there might be mother beings like Mother Mary, and so on and so on. And yeah, and of course, there's also higher beings, I should say more like pure beings, I guess, in terms of how fine their light is, and that would be angelic type of beings, who again are like, they're like the ascended mentors of the ascended mentors, kind of. Um, and yeah, I say that they're more pure because they really hold like a very pure essence. As I say, everything holds like themes and frequency, and they hold very raw, you could say, very raw essences. And that's why they're considered angels, in that sense. And, there's a lot of other beings in this universe, but this is basically the structure of what's going on here relative to us and relative to our higher self communication and our spiritual development. Yeah. So I think then the question becomes, why connect? Why learn to speak to your spirit guides or higher self? Speak to intuitively, access, touch that, be able to hold that light, whatever you want to do, however you want to connect. Why connect to that? Because there are plenty of people on this planet who are living a seemingly good, pretty good life, who are not awakened to like sitting down and having psychic conversations with their spirit guides. No, you don't have to do that. However, there is a benefit to it. And in this lifetime, whatever form connecting to your spirit, that which is beyond your personality, ego, mind, and conditioning, is the most powerful thing that you can do. There are lots of people who are spiritually developing and awakening without communicating with their guides, just simply through meditation and following their heart and things like this. However, we can start to see through our learning, if it's right for you and your soul path, that connecting to spiritual beings directly, actually awakening your psychic capacity, which is really your natural multidimensional awareness that we all have and have just sort of tapped out of. Doing that and being really direct about it can really change your life. It can change your life for the better. It can accelerate your path, accelerate your healing. It can make life easier. If you imagine for a minute that you have access to the higher self, the part of you that is that multidimensional awareness and heart connection that remembers that it is God, and because of the multidimensional awareness factor, has a much vaster, more knowledgeable in many ways view than the mind. If you access that and then let alone the aspects of your consciousness, we could call your spirit guides as well, you have an inbuilt system within you to make this life and your, which is really an alchemical living for your spiritual development. You have a whole like guidebook within you. And as someone who has lived with this very closely with their spirit guides, basically due to survival for a lot of the time, and my natural gifts, I guess, that I was born with, I would not be in the position that I am and the healing that I have been able to achieve, without accessing my spirit and without actually sitting down and doing the alchemical work. So there is a great benefit to really awakening to your spiritual team and receiving their help. What we're talking about is receiving help in your life, receiving guidance, receiving support, being able to learn and navigate your intuition, because the other part about this is you can't learn to talk to spirit guides, etc., without learning how to use your intuition. So we're also talking about what's the benefit of developing intuitively. And as I say, the benefit is that expanded awareness and navigation system that you get to have to direct your life, to heal yourself, to love other people, to love yourself, like whatever in this universe, with so much support. Like, it's, we're not meant to do this alone, and that's why they're there. Like, these beings are right next to you right now in this room. They are just sitting in a slightly different layer of the space that you're in. That's all. You're never alone. Oh my gosh, this tea is so good. Oh, it's like the perfect temperature. I'm someone that like leaves my tea, like I make it and then I leave it for like an hour, and anyway, couldn't do that today. So yay. So if we talk about why connect, we're talking about the benefit of having that guidance in your life. Why do I want to have that guidance in my life? Because I am here, like my life purpose is actually to embody my light and embody this soul essence to the greatest degree that I can within this incarnation. That's what I came here to do. You came here to become more of your soul. You came here to actually remember who you are. And when we talk about remember on this channel, we're not just talking about like, you know, literally memories and things, which can happen, but with remembrance, the path of remembrance, spiritual remembrance, is remembering and embodying. It really means I embody the soul. And when you embody the soul, your vibration is higher. You are going to be happier, more joyful. You're in alignment with the part of you that is always at peace, always in love, always content, always fulfilled, always radiantly joyful. We remember who we are because it is who we are, and also because it is our sacred right. It's your right to be a sovereign being, free of the conditioning that has been sort of layered up on top of our consciousness and made it so that our mind and ego runs the show and that conditioning runs the show. We're not free, we're not living as the free beings that we are if we don't do this sort of work. We are living from a conditioned space, and we're not utilizing the capacity of who we truly are in the most beautiful way possible. And freedom is a state that all of humanity is being called into awakening right now. The path of ascension that we are collectively going through at this point in time, a lot of it is about freedom. And you have to create inner freedom by removing the prison bars of conditioning through healing, and forgetting through, we forget, and that's what makes those bars come up, through the conditioning and the forgetting. And you are also here, I believe it is your sacred birthright. It is your birthright to live as a sovereign being, to take your power back, to actually feel and live your power and create, because it's fun, create the most joyful life you can because it's your sacred right to do so. There's a huge wave of remembering our sovereignty that needs to be happening on the earth right now, that naturally is happening. But the more that we pick it up and you stand in that power, and sovereignty also means I take responsibility. I take responsibility that I know that I am a spiritual being. Like, if you're watching this channel, you know that you're a spiritual being. So if we have that awareness, but we're not taking the responsibility to utilize our full power to make this world better and make your life better, then, we are being, in a way, irresponsible and not sovereign, because our sovereignty is dependent on our ability to take back our power, which is dependent on our ability to actually be willing to do that and to take responsibility. And that means not just for the good times and the power, but taking responsibility for the ways that I have or you have maybe held yourself back by staying within those prison bars, by not doing intuitive development work. We can't complain about our lives because we are the ones creating it. Sovereignty is I remember that I'm the creator of my reality, including the impacts of trauma and conditioned responses and things. It's easy to look at this world and think, well, we're not awake and we've forgotten and we're like these victims in this scenario. But every time, I don't follow my heart, every time I choose fear over love, every time I follow my conditioning, every time I don't do the work to develop my intuition, that's my free choice. So even though we may not feel free at times due to the heavy weight of trauma that we help co-create, we actually are free. And free will means you look at everything that you're doing, and that is the way to take your power back. And that is why I believe that everybody would benefit from learning about your intuition, connecting to your spirit guides, and basically following the path of alchemy. This is the path of alchemy too, this is what Yahweh or Jesus came into a physical body to actually teach. This is what all the Buddhist traditions are teaching. It is so important because when you learn how to do this directly, as I say, you actually come home to God and you have that freedom and you have that sovereignty. So thinking about all that, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy, you guys, if you are not developing yourself spiritually. It's just like, why? Like, you're just making life more challenging for yourself. Hi, Panda. I wonder if, Panda talks to me about his spirit guides as well sometimes, Don't you? Do you want to say anything to all the people? Do you want to teach anything? What do you want to say? I'm an animal communicator, guys, as well. I'm a psychic everything. So let's see what Panda says. Hey? So he says that everybody's heart is special. And he says that he listens to his heart and it gets him biscuits. Okay. Very wise. I love you. Yeah. Okay. So wisdom from Panda. Channeling Panda. All right. So let me look at my notes here for a minute. I think also too, thinking about the collective responsibility to remember who you are and the impact that you not remembering who you are and not navigating your life with your spirit has on the rest of the collective. We do this work as well because we care about the collective and we care about others, and we also know that we are all one. So we need to take back the responsibility of our collective ascension as well. Okay. And really living from your spirit, it is, as I say, it's your power for your self-liberation. It's what you came here to do. So, yeah, that's why. So we've talked about why we should connect. Now we can talk about how to begin connecting, which can be really fun. And I see that there's questions in the chat, and I'm going to get to those at the end here, okay? If you have a question, you can put it in now or leave a comment later and I will try to address them. So the first step to connecting with your spirit, or how to cultivate a connection in the way that we're describing, is utilizing the doorway of the heart. Your heart is the seat of the higher self energy that is coming through what's actually technically, metaphysically, a black hole or portal within this area of your being. Your soul essence is living here, and it is the holy flame of that spark of God within you. It is cultivated and built up when we act from love, when we heal ourselves, when we live from our spirit, when we live from joy. This heart is much like a furnace. It is the place where the fire and the flame burns through you. And then naturally that sort of expands and spreads into your physical and energetic bodies. It's really cool magic there. So the question can be asked, how can I start connecting to my spirit guides? We can connect through the heart and developing the heart. And then what you do is you start to commune with your essence energy. And basically, this entire first step is, let me cultivate a relationship with my higher self or spirit or God within me. That's the first step. And we do that through the heart, through the doorway of the heart. When you start to cultivate that relationship with the higher self and you sit and you practice being in that energy and soaking yourself in that energy, and we'll get more detail in a little bit, guys. When you start to connect to that light, it will start to just be very natural and expanded, that you start sort of talking to or receiving from your spirit guides, what we would call our spirit guides, these higher aspects of your consciousness. And then we start to develop a relationship with them and their frequency. So communion with spirit is about matching frequency, and raising my vibration so that I can raise out of, what my normal vibration might be, very third dimensional or in the mind, etc., and make the space and openness and just higher, faster energy to be able to access higher, faster vibrating light or information or connection. That's what we actually need to do. So when you start connecting to spirit guides, if you start connecting to your higher self and you start training, what actually starts to happen is you start training your system. You start training your system to attune to the frequency of your soul essence inside that heart portal. That's what you're doing. Your system is a system of electromagnetics. It could also be looked at as like a giant tuning fork. And we use this word attunement a lot. Let me attune to this frequency so that I can match it. And then basically my energy is merged with that, or I'm communing with that. So that's how I receive from it, like insights and downloads and things. And I'm just going to pause here and I'm just checking the chat with you guys. Roses has put another question in there. That's awesome. We will answer them soon. And Mary Dawn, hello, beautiful souls. Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome, 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 everybody. Whether you're here live or watching later, thank you for being here. Love you. Yeah. So the beginning steps of how do I connect is, let me connect to my spirit, my God force, higher self, God in me. Let me make the space in myself and also the quietening of the mind so that I may become open to the ability to match and receive from other frequencies, other energies. And in this case, we're talking about your spirit guides. And then all psychic work, really, intuition development, it just expands from there. It's all about matching frequency and being able to receive clearly. And yeah, what we want to do is, through how do I talk to my spirit guides, is I want to begin developing and nurturing that attunement to spirit or soul and my psychic clairs and abilities. The intuitive or psychic clairs, clair means clear, and it's like a clearer sensory system, I feel. So clairvoyance is when you're seeing, clairaudience is when you're hearing, clairsentience is when someone who's psychic may like feel a touch on their shoulder or get sensations. There's the empathic ability, there's channeling ability where you are fully merged with another being's consciousness. And there's even I think the word is clairalience for the smelling and clairgustance for the tasting, where you can smell things and taste things temporarily psychically. It's all very cool. And all of these are really just, can you see how they're really just expanded versions of our natural senses? It's just your natural senses tapping in multidimensionally instead of this one dimension and sticking to this one-dimensional layer. It's the capacity to expand those senses into really their more true form and expression of being much more aware. So yeah, I want to nurture and develop my psychic and multidimensional awareness. I want to ask my spirit guides and life or God within me for help and support. I want to practice. I'm still practicing. Like every day is the practice. And a big part of connecting as well, which we'll get more into in a minute, is intention. But this part of intention, I think it's good to think about, like, what is your highest, deepest heart intention for wanting to learn how to connect to your spirit? Like, what is the truest, most authentic, honest reason that you're doing it? What is the motivator? When you tap into that, that's very electromagnetically powerful, and that's going to help you because energy responds to intention. Intention is like the instruction to energetic flow of things and even your psychic system many times. So now I want to share with you guys about how can I start that practice? Like, what's one or two practices that you could do now to begin to connect to your spirit/spirit guides? As I said, we want to begin with connecting to the heart. So a heart practice can look like, a lot of people already meditate, right? I'm going to give you a mini heart practice and which is sort of like a meditation and go from there. So here's one practice. What you want to do is you want to sit down in a quiet space, ideally when you're alone, so that it's your own energy only, where you feel safe, comfortable, relaxed. You want to do whatever you need to do to get into a relaxed kind of meditative state. There's so many ways of doing that, obviously unique to you. You could put music on, set up the space to be very temple-like, get really cozy, put on a guided meditation first if you want to, whatever helps you settle. Come into a meditative state, practice some breathing, whatever is uniquely working for you or you'd like to try, do that. When you feel like your mind is not, it's not super active, it doesn't have to be completely empty. That would be great if it is. But when you feel like it's sort of relaxed, putting your hands on your heart. And we do this to just draw your focus here. So you don't have to do that, but that can be helpful. Putting both hands on your heart. And then also at the same time, imagining that like your mind and your focus is living up here in your head, in your mind, and imagining that you could drop that energy or that point of focus into here. So I almost feel it like I'm literally moving myself somehow, my mind self, from here to here. So drop into this space. Feel your hands on your heart. Feel the breath. If it helps you with focus, you could breathe in and out into the chest, heart area. And just be here. The heart practice, this is that first step of attunement. What we want to do is build our capacity to just be here in my heart. And maintaining that quietness of mind, maintaining that relaxation. And even that may be enough of a practice for you to start with. Let's say you're doing that, it's going well. Let's say you've been sitting there for like 5 or 10 minutes or something and it's feeling good. What you can do here is set your intention if you haven't already, or request in this case, which is, I would like to, or may I, whatever language is for you, May I connect with my primary spirit guide? This is the easiest thing to do first. May I connect with my primary spirit guide? I would love to connect with my primary spirit guide. Set the intention to receive from my primary spirit guide, to commune with. Always choose the language when you're doing practices that are taught to you. Always choose the language or adjust the language for what resonates most for you. May I connect with my primary spirit guide? Keeping your focus here. And now your only job is to wait. Wait patiently. And you want to be in a state of almost like stepping back, if your mind, especially if your mind is a little bit like, oh, just be almost like, I always say, like, if you were to get a Reiki healing or something, right, you don't have to do anything, but you're sort of sitting there like, yes, like, let me receive. Like, you've got this layer of openness to you. So putting your hand here, and may I connect to my primary spirit guide, and allowing it, basically allowing it. When you practice this, what will start to happen is that you may start to receive impressions, psychic intuitive impressions. This could come through any of the clairs depending on which are your most activated or primary or natural ones. So you might be sitting and waiting, and then you might start to see a color, like a wave of purple in your mind's eye, in your closed eyes. You know, you might start to hear the word water. You might feel like a warmth on your left hand. You might feel an emotion of peace. These are those clairs. You might get a smell like, oh, I smell what smells like roses. Oh, I taste like a mint. It could come through any of those clairs, any of those senses. Again, when this happens, say you get an impression, just keep your focus on it. Stay in this allowing space with your attention and focus on it when it comes up without being grippy. Sometimes we can get excited and we're like, oh, it's happening. Ah, this is a nuance thing and a practice thing, and I can talk more about that in our Q&A of like challenges that can arise. But ideally, I'm sitting here and I just, with my focused attention that's relaxed, I notice that impression. Oh, my mouth tastes like mint, like just in your mind, you're noticing it. Okay, keeping your attention there. If you lose focus, come back to your center, come back to the heart, and refocus in that way. And just let yourself stay with that psychic impression the same way that we were talking about attunement to certain frequency, attunement to the heart first, attunement to feeling your heart. What you're going to start to do is attune to that communication that's coming through you. And then through that, what you're really doing is starting to commune and attune to the unique frequency of that spirit guide. So you might have, this impression come through, mint, let's say, and then wait. Then it might stay, it might get stronger, it might go away really quickly. Whatever happens, if you lose focus, or let's say it goes away, come back to your heart. Or something else might come in at the same time or instead of. Like you might be tasting that mint, and then also like your mind says a name or something. Your mind says water. Your mind could say that's the clear cognizance, where you receive insight through what feel like thoughts and words, or just knowing. You might have a knowing like, oh, I think he's saying that he loves me or something. That's kind of how knowing, claircognizance can feel. When you receive another impression, whether it's that or something else, again, let your focus receive it, be there, be present with it, and let it be. Let yourself be, let yourself experience that. And you can just keep doing this for as long as like feels good to you. Can you see how ultimately this can build up to a conversation? Ultimately, this builds up to you potentially sitting there with a notebook where, you get this impression and maybe you write it down, or you get him saying something and then you write it down, and then you just, again, you don't have to write things down, but it can be good for your memory and to look at later. Yeah, and what you're doing is that you are training yourself to stay with the frequency of that spirit guide. Again, it may not even start with communication. You might like impressions and words and like a conversation. It may just be like that every time you sit down, you just get this emotion of humor, warm humor or something comes through you. And you stay with it and that gets stronger. And then, you keep seeing the color blue. Your spirit guides will have unique energetic signature things like that keep coming back to you, and eventually that's your sort of codex or sign that XYZ spirit guide is trying to talk to you or is around you right now. But one of the first things that they'll do is, just like you were attuning and communing with the heart energy and not doing anything really, they will invite you to attune and commune with and just sit with them. Just sit with them. It may not necessarily be like we're having a full conversation and we're answering questions, blah, blah, blah. That comes with time, and the sitting with them is going to strengthen your ability to attune to their frequency. And when you sit with them and sit with them and sit with them, you will start to be able to connect a lot quicker because your system has learnt this move, kind of this song. It knows this song. And also you will start to, over time, integrate this spirit guide into your being, into your remembrance, which I'll talk about integration of guides in a minute. Yeah, and obviously you can do this for a short or longer time as feels good to you. I would recommend at least 5 minutes in the beginning, unless you're really practiced and you're intuitively developed. 5 minutes to sit with the heart first, or the spirit, or the center first, and then do the playing with your spirit guide, communing with their energy for as long as you like. That could be 5. I think 20 minutes is often a good amount of capacity for attunement, staying focused but not being overwhelmed, things like that. That's what I've noticed as I've taught people. I keep getting the impression of 20 minutes is good, or building up to 20 minutes, So we'll talk about, a lot of the questions that can come up in this in a minute. Yeah. So that is a practice that I would invite you to try. And you can separate it out as well. So if you need to get the hang of the first part, where you're just connecting with your center or your heart, just do that. Just do that for a while, and then expand into the spirit guide communication. If you already feel like you drop in pretty well, just go for the spirit guide communication. Now, one of the things that I just want to mention here is that sometimes people say, oh my gosh, like, I'm going to open up to like a dark energy, or am I doing it right to be safe? Is this safe? What I teach is that if you start with your heart energy and you stay with your heart energy, you are safe. There is a bit of nuance to this, which I can expand on, but you don't need to sit and do like heaps of like spiritual protection and all these things when you're connecting to your own soul. You're not connecting to anything outside of you. So that's the number one reason that we don't need to even worry about that. You have a very strong, clear intention of, I'm just connecting to what's already here within me. As you start to expand into the conversational, intuitive stuff, that's where protection stuff can come up. But I literally would not worry about it until you've got the hang of, let's say, getting that energy signature down with your primary spirit guide. And the nuance that I will say to this is that, if somebody already has like quite a significant negative attachment or entity or something, like in their field or something, yes, when they first start opening up, that entity is, they can react to when you raise your frequency and try to, like, I don't want that, so let me try to do something. But I'm still not that worried about it, because if you are staying with your heart is your protection. That higher vibrational energy wipes out negative energy. And yeah, it's not going to be something that's really in your awareness for a little bit. And the powerful thing about you is that you can always choose your frequency. You can remove yourself, open your eyes, go, like, listen to your favorite song, things like this. As soon as you raise your vibration, negative energy can't, be influencing you anymore. It's really cool. So yeah, I hope that this makes sense. I was looking at my notes here. What I wanted to do is ask Spirit right now if there's anything else that they wanted to guide or, teach or share around this. And then after that, we'll get into questions after I drink my tea. Okay. I'm just going to listen for a moment. So even now, actually, I'm going to teach you for a moment, like what I do, even because I've been talking and sort of thinking a bit and stuff, like I'm a bit in my mind energy, which is completely fine and healthy. But so what I do, but super quickly, is as I move my consciousness into my heart, and then I hear my spirit guides. And that's what you can accelerate into. Okay? All right. And for me, I give myself a moment too, because the lights and things kind of bother my senses. So I have to give myself a moment. So Spirit is saying that when you understand, they're talking about how if you do this work, it's also around understanding and accepting who you are and what you are. Spirit's talking about how there is a real need within this sort of conversation for us to practice and be able to accept the vastness of who and what we are. Sometimes Spirit's bringing this up because they're pointing to how this can be our resistance to opening up intuitively and communing with our spirit, or both. We often have a resistance to recognizing our full potential in terms of, I'm a spirit, like I'm a spiritual entity. Having that capacity to actually hold that and live that, Spirit's talking about how it changes who you are. Really, it brings you back home to who you are, but it will change the way that you see and perceive yourself and the world, and the way that you navigate life. It will be very different. And what can happen, and the reason Spirit's pointing to this, is because a lot of people underneath somewhere, even spiritual people who, like, there's a huge part of you that's very authentically wanting to expand. There is that part of us that's very human, and the ego and all of that is going to sort of hold on to the way that things are and the way that life is, in terms of the way that you experience life, what you currently believe about what life is. When you start to open extra dimensionally, it can be quite a quite a thing for our minds to grapple with, and we can come up with all sorts of unconscious resistances because of that deeper resistance to knowing that you're in a multidimensional reality and actually living that, and that you're a multidimensional being. It's amazing and sometimes terrifying to the human. Yet Spirit's talking about how the benefit of opening psychically in this way is that you get to feel how loved and supported you are. You get to feel very supported and held if you do intuitive work from a starting place of your own energy, your soul, your own power. You're supported. Spirit's just saying, like, you're supported, and it's okay. No matter what happens, it's okay. And that's the beauty of this. I love that. I'm just going to see if they want to say anything else. And they're saying tap into who you are, knowing that you're safe to do so. Okay. I love that. Yeah, because this is something my spirit guides have always taught me, and I hear other teachers and stuff speaking about this, about like to be worried about negative energy or other entities. Again, there's a bit of nuance to this, but my guides have always taught me and shown me that if I am connected to my heart and you're connected with your own team and your own energy, you are safe. It doesn't make sense vibrationally, like in the laws of metaphysics, that you're going to be unsafe in that process because you're vibrating at this with this, not like some low yucky frequency. Yeah. As I say, the nuance is, so here's one of the things. We don't want to sit down when we don't want to sit down and open psychically if we're feeling really emotionally imbalanced, triggered, we're going through trauma in our life, stuff like that. It's about your vibration. If you're like vibrating really low, it may not be the best time to, as a beginner, if you are a beginner, let's say, to open yourself and do the training. Just wait, just take care of yourself, do some self-soothing, do all those things, and come back to it at another time. This is when, like, that's one example where people can have a negative experience when they're just not in the right vibration. Sorry, it's like hair on my lips. When they're not on the right vibration, oh my gosh, is this what I get for wearing sunscreen? Just makes your face so sticky. They're not in the right vibration. So, of course, they're going to be vibrating. Whatever you're vibrating at is what you attract. In this third dimensional experience, in the process of manifesting, and what you manifest on a psychic, like other dimensional level. So don't do that. Maybe don't do your beginner training if you're going through, a big stress or grief or something just in life, in the current themes in your life. But further down the line, when you get the hang of this, and if you can say, I've got the hang of dropping into my heart, it takes me a few minutes, but I've got the hang of it. I've got the hang of dropping into my spirit guides energy. That's where the beautiful thing about learning to communicate with your spirit guides is that you can come to your soul and you can come to your heart and your spiritual team for emotional support when you feel bad. But you need to have the spiritual foundations, I guess, for you to be able to change that vibration and manage it so that you don't, engage with negative things. So that's probably another video. I do actually have a video that's, amongst other things, in the title. I think it's got some other things in it, but it says psychic protection. And that's where I kind of talked about this. And I talked about what you vibrate at is what you attract. So let me feel into if there's anything else to say regarding this, I guess, beginning place and practice. Okay, so I think just trust yourself. So a lot of people in the beginning, they will doubt the impressions that they start to get when they're sitting there trying to listen. And they'll be like, oh, it's just my mind making that up. Or like, I just, that was just a thought, la, la, la. In the beginning, you need to have an attitude of who cares? Who cares? We're just playing with this. And having that attitude keeps you open and it stops you from blocking, because what blocks or slows down your spiritual training is that doubt that can happen, and being too mental and logical about things. It's just not the right energy. So it's better to be open and be like, yeah, I don't know if that was right or wrong, but I'm going to list it as awesome anyway, or I'm going to assume that I'm right. And later through time and development, and you can go back and look through your own notes and stuff if you want to judge what you got. Later, you can filter through and you can train yourself to know when it's your mind versus when it's like an actual psychic impression. But you don't want to get held up in the beginning by trying to get it right, because if you are a beginner, you're probably not going to get it all right all the time. But actually, with a lot of my clients, especially you guys who might be watching this because you are sensitive, most sensitive people do have quite a decent channel for intuitive impressions already. The thing that messes them up is the doubt itself. So if you move that and just basically put it aside, just tell yourself, okay, I'm going to analyze this later. I'm going to judge it later. Right now, I'm just going to be in the experience, and I'm just going to, assume that color I saw in my mind was from my spirit guide. Yay, carry on. If you do that way, you're going to be allowing your psychic channels to actually develop more, and then you'll learn through experience, and we can have more conversations about it in other classes about like discerning energies and discerning what's my mind and what's not, and so on. So that is what I have for you today. And now I'm going to move into questions. If anybody has any questions, I know there's a couple in the chat, but just a reminder that if you've thought of any new ones, you can put them in. And if you're watching this later, feel free to leave a question or share in the comment section. And I might address it in another video. I'm sure I'll probably do more spirit guide related videos because it is a big topic, and this can be a lot to learn here. And I would also love to answer, what questions are on your mind, So let's have a look at the questions in the chat currently. Rosa says, can we ask our guides for help with anything, even the mundane things? Yes, absolutely. I do that all the time. I'm like, what should I get for my groceries? From my guides, because everything that's mundane, like if you're a slightly awakened person like you all are, and if you have a question like that seems mundane, like what hat should I buy, or something silly like that, there's usually a deeper reason that you like deep down there is a sort of important reason that you want to know that. So it's all relevant. It's not about things being mundane. It's about like, if we take like questions like, if we keep doing it and we're trying to, it's about your intention behind the question, I should say. Like if I'm asking because I'm trying to cheat the system of human learning, and I'm like asking every single day, like, what about this? And I'm never making decisions and blah, blah, blah. Like your guides they're not going to help you, like, not learn how to navigate and support yourself, they're going to empower you. Yeah, you can ask them for absolutely anything, and whatever response they give you is for your highest good. It's really cool. What can we do when we have a bit of a blocked heart due to emotional trauma? I want to connect with my higher self and guides, but can tell that whenever I tune into it, my heart is a bit blocked. Okay, well, if you know that you have a blockage in your heart area, I would just focus on healing that first. So one way of doing that, especially in this sort of practice, is doing that thing of connecting to the heart and dropping in there and just staying with the heart, and also utilizing the power of intention, which is instruction to energy. And also you could ask your guides for help. You could say, please may I, or like through your intention, I intend that I heal this blockage in my heart. You don't have to know like complicated steps or anything. And then just be in the heart, be with what is. If you have that intention, I'm sure that in time, those emotions that need to be cleared will probably start to come up and out. Your guides are going to help you. Maybe in that moment you'll get an impression from your guide that says you need to dance, like something to help you heal. If I know that I have a block in a certain chakra, I think it's good to just, as with any healing, give it my presence, give it that loving intention, and allow and see what happens from there. and trust in what's happening. That being said, if you absolutely are sure about like what that unique emotional trauma is, you could obviously also do healing through whatever you normally want to do, like therapy, journaling, whatever that particular emotional trauma needs. At the core of it is that presence and coming home to your heart anyway. Your heart knows how to unblock itself if you stay with it and give it the space to. Um, and she said, you want to connect. Yeah. And so having a blocked heart or certain blocked chakra is not necessarily going to block you from hearing this or that spirit guide. But if you're experiencing, like, whenever I try to psychically develop, I get blocked by the wound in my heart, in that case, yeah, then you need to just work through that block with your own process and also with your higher self and guides, even in that very moment, as I just described. Um, and trust, the biggest thing that I hear for you is to trust that it's moving, trust that it's moving through, and also have a secondary belief that nothing can block you from being connected with your soul or your heart. It can feel like that and we can sort of experience like that, but you're not cut off. There's just something, swimming around, vibrating there. That's all. It's a nuanced thing of, don't let yourself believe that you're like cut off, because if you believe that, that makes everything harder for you. I'm sure that your guides are sitting there, trying to help you when you're doing this. And I would try to, as I always teach, like, be present. Don't force past our wounds and be with them and give them the love that they need. Yeah. So let's look at the other questions. Mary said that she made some peppermint tea. Oh, that's great. I would like some peppermint tea, actually. Sounds nice. Starry says, hi, how do you know you're actually talking with or connecting with your spirit guides or even a loved one who's crossed over, especially if you've never spoken with them or seen them before? And how do they respond? Is it a feeling you get or hear a voice image? If you hear something, how do you know it's not your own mind thoughts? Oh, okay, cool. Well, we did just go over that, if you want to rewatch, but I'll summarize that second part of your question, the second paragraph. I'll just quickly answer that part first. You get impressions through the psychic clairs, so the psychic senses. So it could be an image in your own mind. It could be hearing a voice. It could be hearing a thought. It could be having a knowing, like, I just know that my spirit guide is saying that, to go outside today and play. You could get an emotion like, oh, I feel like a kind of laughter in my belly. You could get a feeling like, my left ankle feels warm or something. These are all your clairs, your psychic senses, the expanded senses. And that's going to build up over time into a sort of conversation, depending on how much training that you do and how open you already are. As for how do you know, like, what you're talking to or connecting with, especially if you've never spoken with them or seen them before, you learn over time. You just learn over time through practice. So to try to keep yourself safe and make sure you are, and give the highest chance that you are connecting to your spirit guide, that's why the first step is intention. I intend and I now connect to my primary spirit guide, or, this particular crossed over loved one. You want to set the container and set the intention for that, and then do the practice of receiving. And then if you do that, you should most likely only get impressions from the being that you are specifically trying to connect with. The potential of, like, getting confused between this being or that or something, that's only going to really happen if you sit there and you have a really open intention or container and you say, let me commune with any being that wants to talk with me right now. Obviously, you're going to possibly get a lot of more hits, let's say. Um, and how do you know as well is that with this practice, you'll start to learn the unique frequency of, like, let's say your primary spirit guide. You'll notice that every time I sit down to do this practice, and I ask for my primary spirit guide, I get the same, like, purple light, and I hear the same word of joy. Like, I get the same impressions over and over. That's sort of their energetic frequency or their name, whatever. Like, you'll notice that they all feel the same. We all have a unique sort of energetic signature or feeling. Like, I can close my eyes and I can feel, like, if there were like 4 cats in the room, and I am kind of like trained in this a little bit, I can feel what my cat's unique personality, energetic signature feels like. You could do the same with your friends, you know? So you learn through that practice of discerning it. You also learn through mistakes. Further down the track, you learn through getting it wrong and realizing, like, especially with the thing about how do you know if it's your mind or thoughts. Let's say you have an intention, or you ask us like a psychic question, and then you get an answer, and then it turns out that that was totally wrong. You might make a little mental note in your mind and be like, okay, maybe that was my own thoughts. And then let's say you ask a different psychic question, and then what you got, like the answer that you got, like happens, like it happens in front of you. Then you know, okay, like that really was my intuition when I got that hit. So by making the mistake and getting it right, you'll learn actually how it feels, just kind of feels internally, emotionally, energetically, when it's your mind versus when it's like a true psychic impression. And that is just a practice thing, of developing the capacity for discerning between like mental energy and trying too hard and these different things that can, make your mind interfere and get you a bit confused. Um, and the other good tip about discerning, is it my mind and my own thoughts or is it a true psychic impression, is that if there is any emotional charge behind the impression, then it's probably your mind. Intuitive impressions are very neutral, if not a kind of smooth, loving energy. They are not going to be like on a negative, they're not going to be fearful. Like, the best example is, even if your guide needed to tell you like something that's like, a bit scary potentially. Like, if you were going to cross the road, and you went across the road, and like if you cross the road in that moment, like you were going to get hit by a car, so your guide sends you a psychic impression, they're not going to say to you, oh my god, stop, you're going to get hit by you're going to get hit by a car. There's not going to be any charge like this. It's not going to be in the language. If you get words, it's not going to be in that way. They're going to just say or do something like, wait. Like, it's just going to be like, wait, you know? If you ask, a emotionally charged question like, does my friend have cancer or something, like, you want to, the emotions get in the way when you have emotional attachment to the answer. But if you ask like, does my friend have cancer or something, and you get a like yes, but the yes has this sort of like, it's got some sort of emotion behind it, that's probably your mind like jumping in and guessing. If you get a yes in that example and it was like yes, that is probably your intuition. If you get a no, but the no is like, no, absolutely not, no, that, again, like, that's probably you and your mind, versus if it's just like no, or it's just you get an impression of wellness, that's your no. So these are some of the ways that spiritual development can sort of be. And it really is just a practice. Like, my best training is when I got things wrong. I know what it feels like if my mind is interfering. I know what it feels like when I'm in an emotionally charged state and it's not a good moment to open up psychically or ask a specific question. I know what kind of energetic, coherent, calm vibe I just need to feel within my own heart or within my own being to get the correct responses and to get good responses. And that's, time and practice. So let's have a look at the chat here. Rosa says, whenever I want to communicate with my guides, I never know how to form my questions. I feel I want to ask so much, but feel blocked in how to articulate it. Do you have any advice for this? Well, I wouldn't try too hard. Especially if any of this, if there's any sort of trying energy, this is this like gripping energy that's not this relaxed receiving energy. So I would put it aside and just I want you to know, like, your guides know, like, they're right next to you. They know, even if you don't know. Like, and they have that expanded awareness too. Like, they know what you most need to know. Like, they know what you're trying to ask. There have been moments where I've said to my guides, like, I don't even know how I feel right now, what I want, but like, help me, and then and they give you the perfect, like, the thing that, you were actually asking, or that you were actually deep down asking, but your mind was too, like, you couldn't articulate it, because they love you and they know you so individually and deeply. If you want to articulate it, I would say to just set the intention or question of, may I know whatever is in my highest good right now. May I receive whatever is for my highest wellness right now. Or whatever you, spirit, would like to show me. I'm open. Something like that. Yeah. And I understand the feeling of, like, I want to ask so much. Sometimes we feel like that, and that's the best time to just let spirit surrender. A lot of this is surrender control to spirit, because when you surrender to spirit, you're surrendering to the best part of yourself. You're surrendering to love. You're safe to do so, and it's of your highest benefit. Laura, hi Laura. Well, welcome. We are starting to wrap up. If you or anyone else has any questions around communicating with your spirit guides, now would be the time to drop them in the chat, because we've answered quite a few now. I'm just feeling into if there's anything else I needed to say or share at the moment. I think just, remember that foundational energy of having a playful, open, we want to be playful, open, relaxed, not trying hard, having a beginner mindset. If you are, like, you don't jump on a horse and know how to ride instantly. Like, people fall off, it's fine, and you get back on. Just do that. Be patient. Spirit's asking me to tell you guys to have patience with yourself, have patience with the process, trust the process. When you go into intuitive development and spirit guide connection, what you're really also going, like, you're going towards your soul. So often, like, you'll be like, I want to sit and just have a nice time with my heart and with my spirit guides, but, like, you might have some emotional clearing that is sitting in the way of you opening up your clairvoyance more, or sitting in the way of you receiving the unique energetic themes from XYZ guide. And those need to be cleared before you can receive clearly. So you may sit down and have, like, an emotional process start to come up. Trust the process. Like, there's an inbuilt intelligence here in your system that it knows exactly who you are, exactly what you want, and exactly how best for your healing. And the path of least resistance is always taken with energy and in psychic communication. So your guides are going to use your clairs that are already open. If you have a lot of mental mind, they're going to use your mind. If you're a very deeply feeling person, they're going to use your feeling. It's always about the path of least resistance, and then you can, get more masterful over time, and expand. So let me feel into the one other thing actually. Yeah, and this is the last chance for questions, guys, because after this, I'm gonna go have some food and say goodbye. Um, but I did want to say this because I said that I would, which is um, your spirit guide. When we're talking about what are spirit guides, we talked about how they are also like aspects of your higher self or your own soul essence. Um, when you commune with your spirit guides and start to connect in that way, what you're simultaneously doing without even like, you know, specifically trying is you are integrating your spirit guide. We could call it integrating your spirit guide. So your consciousness has been split into like this guide and you and da da da. And you're like the conduit for all that consciousness. And we're here to embody that into this lifetime. Um, uh when you start, like, you'll start talking to like your primary spirit guide or something, and you'll develop a stronger connection with them, and you'll learn a lot from them, and they'll teach you on like and help you with specific themes in your life and stuff like that. And then at a certain point, you'll almost, we would say, you've integrated slash you're now embodying that aspect of your consciousness, that spirit guide. And um, that's when it can start to be like, this is way down the track, but that can when it start to be like you don't even have to shift your own consciousness state to be able to access what that guide has been saying to you, or to you almost like become that guide, you merge with that guide. And then you probably we sometimes we move on to the next guide. So the guides that you're working with will change and move depending on the themes that you have and depending on where you're at with the integration of them. And ultimately, what you're doing is integrating like your soul, that who and what you truly are. And then when you have that integrated, you can actually live from that place and you become a much more developed person. And all the themes and things, they just become a part of who you are because your guides and everything are just you in a high dimensional expression without like the blocks or limitations or whatever that we're currently grappling with. And when you connect with them, you merge with them, you heal those things, you become more of yourself and you become integrated with your team. It's really cool. Laura says, in case you didn't talk about it yet, what do ringing in the ears mean for you or why it occurs? This is a common question. I've thought about this before, but I'm also going to ask Spirit just what's the best answer for you right now. Well, yeah, so this is what I've been told before and is happening here is that it's an energetic adjustment. So that could be an energetic adjustment of your own system, of your aura, something like, I'm not saying something came in and adjusted you, like you naturally change frequency for some reason. Or it could be around you, like the energy around you, the energy in the room changed. And so you're hearing a different frequency tone. It can also mean like, you think about it like adjustment. So it can mean like maybe a being entered the room, maybe your guide's adjusting something for you in your field, maybe you dropped in frequency, maybe you went up in frequency. So it's just all sorts of things like that. And this is specifically talking about when you hear that ringing and it goes away. I'm not talking about like tinnitus and things like that, which is kind of a thing, but also a different thing. It's kind of the same, but it's also a bit different when it's a full-on like tinnitus experience. So I'm assuming you mean when it like happens temporarily. So let's say when I get a ringing in the ears, I take it as just like a signal of this some sort of energetic adjustment, and then I use my psychic ability to read that. So then I might ask, I'll be like, yes, I hear that. What has happened? And I'll just receive the knowing of what that was. Like, was it a guide trying to say something to me? Was it just like, was it important? Was it just like, a guide walking around the room and it's not, I just heard it. Um, when you get stuff coming into your psychic experience, you want to learn how to, the next, again, this is more development, but you want to learn how to read that input that has come into you and understand it. Yeah. Mari says, hello, Becc. Much love from Ivory Coast. Hello. Thank you for being here. We are coming to the end. You have just joined us at the end. We've been going for about an hour 30. Oh my gosh, it goes fast when you're talking about magic. So, yeah. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here. Sorry, Mari, that you've just come now. But make sure you watch the replay. Make sure you go back and enjoy. If you guys have not already, please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss anything. It's such a joy to be here. If you're interested in learning more about the, I guess, alchemical path and what this sort of connection can turn into, one way of learning that might be to look at my online journal that I've just started. Well, there's a few entries in there now. It's called The Path of Alchemy. It's at the website Substack. My username is Becc Sahasrara. There's a link in the like the info here. And that's where you're gonna like see me having these conversations with my spirit guides and doing healing and stuff like that. And really living out the path of alchemy and connecting and being a psychic person. Yeah, so that would probably be a good place to look at. And yeah, thank you for being here. Please share this with your friends and family and socials if you felt that it served you. Everybody should learn how to connect to their spirit guides. Everyone should know it's important. Here it is, 1:10 in the morning. I prepared the decoration for my son's birthday. Oh, awesome. Happy birthday to your son. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Have a beautiful day or night, and enjoy your magic.